Thank you. I'm going to make a long story very short this morning. I'm going to tell the story of my walk with Joaquin. I want you to know that I have permission and Joaquin's blessing to share this journey with you this morning. So Joaquin and I lived very different experiences as children. I went to regular classes where I learned reading, writing, math, social studies, and science, whereas when he went to school on that same campus, he was schooled behind this big metal fence, or at least to me at the time, it was a big metal fence. And in his classroom, he learned not about reading, writing, math, social studies, and science, but he learned compliance through aversive conditioning methods. He was trained to be compliant. However, he didn't do so well in learning compliance, and so they sent him away to a non-public school for children with autism, where for 10 years he worked on compliance training. At the end of that 10 years, he wasn't doing so well. He was trying to communicate that that wasn't working for him, and he wanted something different. And my parents were given an ultimatum, and they were told that if they did not put their son on medication, that he would be expelled from that special school, and the only other option for him would be a mental hospital, a state institution. Well, this scared my parents, and they opted to go ahead and follow the recommendations of the professionals in the field, and they put Joaquin on medications. And within a couple days, Joaquin, who loved to run and shout and play and fly, jump around, was convulsing on the floor, having convulsions. And when the medications were adapted to hopefully not have him have convulsions, not have seizures, he became psychotic and very dangerous. And after 5 long months of not being able to get his behavior and his health under control, a crisis happened, and Joaquin actually ended up going to the very place that our family was trying to prevent him from going in the first place. I spent a lot of time thinking about, how does this happen? How does Joaquin, how does this beautiful family, my mother who raised 11 brothers and sisters in Spain and who was a devoted mother, and my father, Elvis Presley here, and who is a military retiree and devoted father and husband, how does this Spanish-Italian American family end up with the son that they love so much in a state institution where he spent 15 years of his life and where every weekend we had to drive 2 hours to go visit him? How does that happen? And I started to realize that there was a certain level of commitment that was in place in my brother's early life. And I looked up the definition of commitment. And there are 2 definitions which make sense to me. One is devotion or dedication to a cause, a person, or relationship. And the other is an act of legally confining someone to a prison or mental health facility. When Joaquin was younger, there wasn't a real devotion or dedication to him and his life quality as a cause, to him as a person, to a relationship with him where he could learn to communicate reciprocally. And by default, without that commitment to him, by default, he was confined to a mental health facility. You see, we have this institutional mindset, and it says there's a us and there's them. There are the normal people and the special people. There are those who belong, and there are those who do not belong. Institutionalization happens when we judge others as not belonging. And we don't just do it with disability. We also do it with religion. We do it with race. We do it with sexual orientation, gender identity. And somehow we are always the ones standing in judgment of others, right? Institutionalization happens both in reality and it happens in our minds. It happens like it did to Joaquin in reality, and it happens in our minds when we're in judgment of others. This is exhausting. And people ask me, all the time. How do you do it? You must be so exhausted the way you are, so involved in your brother's life. But I beg to differ. We do have moments. We do have moments that are exhausting, like the time he put his mark on the cake for our dear friend's memorial service. That was stressful. That was exhausting. And there are many more moments, but what's really exhausting has nothing to do with autism and Joaquin, but more so how society has responded through segregation, through having him live in a situation where none of us would want to live in an institution. What's exhausting is the constant seizures. What's exhausting is the seizures that happen that nobody noticed until I got there on the weekend and said, when did he have a seizure? And they said, we didn't know he had a seizure. And I had him lay down for 3 hours to sleep off his seizure. What's exhausting is when I take him to the restroom to assist him, and I notice that he's wearing someone else's underwear, and their name is crossed off, and his name is written above. What's exhausting is when the shirt he's wearing has someone else's name on it, and his name written above their name. What's exhausting is when he's wearing someone else's sweatshirt or someone else's sock over and over again, wearing other people's clothes, other people's shoes. Joaquin loves nothing more than his backpack, and one day I went to pick him up, and they couldn't find his backpack. And so they took somebody else's backpack, crossed off their name, and gave it to my brother. What's exhausting is finding bruises on him that nobody noticed until I got there, and bite marks that nobody noticed until I got there. So what's exhausting is not my brother so much as the world's response to my brother. When we were in the process of fighting to get Joaquin released from the institution, a fight that took 3 years, my mother asked Joaquin, what would you like to be your homecoming meal when we finally get you out? And he said steak. And I don't know why he said steak. We didn't really eat steak growing up. We were more of a rice and chicken kind of family. But he said steak. And we later realized for those 3 years, he kept saying, I want steak. I like steak. Steak is coming. Steak is coming. And I'm wearing the necklace that says steak is coming right now. He kept saying that. And we realized that was his metaphor for what he knew he needed and what he deserved, and that was life quality. So here's the day we announced to him that he was going to finally get that steak. What happened at your meeting, Joaquin, is that, listen for a second. What happened is it was decided that you get to come home on November 4th, which is 21 days.
Are you ready? Oh my God, are you ready?
Right down.
That's awesome. Yeah, the whole bitch.
What do you think?
I don't want steak, one. I don't want steak.
Congratulations, Joaquin. It's less than a month away, Joaquin. That's just a couple of days, dude.
Are you ready, Monica?
Right down.
Right on, baby.
Joaquin also learned some choice adult words in the institution. When we stop judging, we start appreciating. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Let's count down to steak. We need to really get to know people in a deep and respectful way, and I want you to meet Joaquin and get to know him in a deeper way right now with this next video.
You ready? I just call, I did the same. I love you.
I just called
It was the same.
say how much
Sing it!
I care.
And I do, what up, man? I love you, right on, man. You're getting tired.
And I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I just called
Sing it!
to say I love you.
Hey, Joaquin,
I just called
sing the song.
to say how much I care.
You gonna sing it?
I love you's called the same. I love you, call me.
That's great. From
Oh, my heart. hamburgers.
Joaquin knows that he's loved. We still sing that song every day. Esteeming each person as vastly valuable seeds their peaceful self. Treating a person as worthless seeds an irritated, erred self. Perfectly stated by our friend Peyton Goddard. Joaquin knows that he is esteemed highly, and that seeds his peaceful self. You see, to merely strive for acceptance is unacceptable. It is complete and unconditional appreciation that we desire. We tend to think that tolerance is going to be enough, or that even acceptance is going to be enough, but we really need to strive for that appreciation. And here's the difference. Tolerance says, I am me, and you are you, but there's something wrong with you, but I'm going to put up with you anyway. Acceptance says, I am me, and you are you, and I am superior to you. I am judging you. There is something wrong with you, but because I'm a good person, I am going to accept you. However, if we appreciate someone, we're saying, I am me, and you are you, and we are on a level playing field. We are both part of humanity. We are both beautiful. I esteem you. I value you. We have different journeys and experiences. I want to understand your journey. I want to share in your journey, and I invite you to share in mine. That's appreciation, and that is what has made a difference in Joaquin's life. What is stake? Stake is waking up in your own bed, in your own home, in your own community. When we start appreciating, we find creative ways to include people. We had to find creative ways to include Joaquin, and who better than his family that he has a history with to be able to know what those creative ways for including him are. Family is important. Community is important. Who best to be there when you need them? And who best to know that when you're in the hospital, you need your keys to your house to keep you going. Family. Stake means when your Uncle Joaquin, your brother Joaquin, and your cousin Joaquin are together in your house when they visit from Spain, that's the best environment, not in an institution. Spending time with your family. Having a contest for growing a mustache with your dad. That's stake. Spending time with your mom, knowing your mom is there for you. And being able to be there for your mom when she needs you. And being able to be with your mother's body the day that she died. That's stake. Something that could not have happened when you're institutionalized. 3, when we include people, they experience a sense of belonging. Joaquin always experienced a sense of belonging whenever our family would take drives into the country. And so I used to sing this song to him as a kid, and I still sing it with him every day.
Take me home to the place where I belong.
Miss Dina.
West Virginia, Mountain Mama.
Take me home.
Take me home,
California.
country road.
Take me home, Dad.
Take me home, country road. To the place
Take me home, Dad.
where I belong.
Nice to meet you, man.
West Virginia, Mountain Mama.
Take me home.
Take me home,
Country road.
country road.
Country road. Take me home, Dad.
So we moved Joaquin out of the institution onto a country road where he has friends. He has his own harem of women who adore him. He goes to community picnics. He gets to commune with his nurse, who happens to be his neighbor, runs into her, neighbors and friends who take him for rides on Harley Davidsons while watching the cows. And he gets to go into the city. Because his anxiety is down, he's relaxed because he lives in the country in a place of his choosing. He then gets to go and be part of the community in other places as well. 2, when people belong, they have hope and life quality. Joaquin now works. He loves his work. doing all the things that he's good at, that he chooses, and then he gets to play after he's done with his work. Contributes to the community and rests and has fun and drinks his favorite beverages. Did I mention Joaquin loves beer? He loves to laugh. He loves to go for walks and runs, and he loves to fly. He loves to ride his bike, and he loves to park it wherever the heck he wants. And he can, because he has his own home now. Joaquin can communicate in multiple ways. He can use his words, he can use typing, supported typing, and he can use a yes-no communication board. And so his voice is heard and honored where it was not in an institutional setting. One, when they have life quality, we have life quality. We all partake in steak. Joaquin now attends San Diego State University. He goes to class every week when his body is able to, when he feels like he can. And it's so exciting that he's making friends. And he's not only learning, but they're learning. They're learning. He's contributing to so many lives. Last week when he walked into class, somebody yelled from across the auditorium, "Steak is coming!" And it made his day. It made his life. Joaquin loves to learn about civil rights history. And he actually got an award from Disability Rights California for self-advocacy and helping to get himself out of the institution. This walk with Joaquin causes me to reflect a lot about whether or not I'm bringing steak into the world or not. See, the walk that we live, it can either bring about steak or it can bring about institutionalization for the Joaquins that we know, the people in our community. When we begin to understand our role in disabling others, we can begin to create inclusive possibilities and empower people. And that's what it's about. Will your walk bring steak? I believe in steak. The question is, do you? Thank you.